Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this workshop on accelerating the green transition in the Mediterranean, and where we're going to have a spotlight on funding opportunities. My name is Aldo Puleo, and I'm working at the Managing Authority of the ENI CBC MED program, Future Interact Next MED program. Allow me to say that we have 1 hour sharp, and we have 5 speakers that will intervene. But before passing the floor to the speaker, allow me to briefly explain what we're going to deal with today. We're talking about EU-funded programs, and in particular, we have here representatives from 2 different programs and 1 very interesting initiative, plus also the Union for the Mediterranean representative. And we have more or less 850 million euros on the table here. And the main goal of today is to provide you with some information on the opportunities that these programs offer to you to finance projects operating in the Mediterranean area. We're talking about cooperation, international cooperation. We're talking about projects that are actually implemented in the Mediterranean area. But before entering into the details, allow me to introduce Mr. Maury Gilland from the European Commission. He is the head of unit of DG Regio, dealing with macro regions, transnational, interregional, external cooperation, enlargement of the European Commission for a welcoming remark. Gilly, are you online? Can you hear us? Maury, are you with us? I don't see him on the screen. We'll wait just a couple seconds. Otherwise, we hope to get him. Is he there? There he is. Maury is there. Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for attending, and the floor is yours for this welcoming speech. Please, you have about 6-7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to join you here online for this session looking at accelerating the green transition in the Mediterranean. And what I wanted to do was to take just a few minutes at the start to set the scene from the European Union's perspective, and in particular from the support that the European Union delivers through its regional development policy and its funding. Regional development within the European Union remains one of the main budgetary priorities, despite the many competing challenges we face in recent years, with around 1/3 of the European Union's entire budget dedicated to the questions of regional development, aiming to reduce economic, social, and territorial disparities across the EU, and particularly relevant for our discussion today in relation to our cooperation with our neighbours around the European Union. And we do that through a specific component of the regional development policy called Interreg. We have a funding package of over 10 billion euros for this cooperation under Interreg, supporting cooperation across borders at national, regional, and local level. Almost 20 of these Interreg cooperation programs operate in the Mediterranean area, either as cross-border programs which we generally refer to as bilateral programs, for example, between member states such as Italy and Malta, or between a member state and a neighbor such as Italy and Tunisia, or what we call transnational cooperation across a wider grouping of countries, including a wide range of different partner countries. And these are the ones that we'll be hearing about in more detail later on this afternoon. Now, these Interreg programs that I mentioned in the Mediterranean provide over 2 billion euros in funding, and close to half of the funding for the new programs that will be running from now up until the end of the decade, close to half of that funding is already earmarked for green investment. So close to 1 billion dedicated to green investments, which is significantly higher than the minimum required, which is 30%. And I think that's a sign of how serious the countries around the Mediterranean take this issue. Most of this funding is likely to be allocated to climate change adaptation measures, but there will also be significant funding available in the fields of energy efficiency, renewables, and biodiversity, to name but three. Now, perhaps the rationale behind this is obvious, but I want to try and underline that. The problems that we face in the Mediterranean are common to the countries across the entire region, and therefore we need common solutions. And the approach that we have with Interreg is precisely to generate such common solutions, because the programs and the partners in the programs work together to deliver joint projects and joint solutions, and to implement and run the programs themselves jointly as well. So it's important to underline that this is not about top-down management of funding from Brussels, if you will, but it's very much bottom-up, with the priorities and the needs identified jointly by the participating countries, and then delivered jointly through the projects that they put together themselves. Now, we've had many years of experience of cooperating through Interreg as a whole, and in the Mediterranean area in particular. And we already have a range of interesting and innovative projects that have been operating from previous program periods. And I very much hope we'll hear some examples of those later on. But what I wanted to highlight perhaps were just one or two of the more fundamental elements looking forward in the Mediterranean cooperation that we will be supporting over the next decade. So the program which we call the Next Med program, unfortunately, as you will be very much aware, the European Union does love its acronyms, will bring together 15 partners around the Mediterranean, 7 EU member states, and 8 partners. In addition to the focus on the green transition, the available funding for climate change and that search for environmental solutions, at the heart of how the program is delivered are the principles of partnership and shared ownership. And here we very much hope that through this delivery of the program in a joint manner, the program itself will contribute to building confidence and trust in the region and promoting wider policy dialogues in order to find those collective solutions that I referred to earlier. An additional element to stress here is that innovative, smart economic and digital transformation is equally important in the Mediterranean area, especially in the context of the ongoing recovery process. And the Next Med program has also this area as a priority, with over 70 million euros dedicated for innovation and SME competitiveness. And we hope that from a European Union perspective, that we will be able to reinforce the necessary synergies, the greater levels of coordination between the various funding streams in the Mediterranean basin. That's why we're particularly keen on discussions and events like today, because we recognize that there is so much happening at the moment that encouraging our programs and our partners and partnerships to check for complementarities, to look for the possibilities of higher added value right across the region, can only help in delivering the successful results that we are all looking for together. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to the rest of the seminar. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Gillen. It has been actually very valuable introduction, because it allows me to jump into the main subject of today, which is actually one of the topics that we're going to deal with. Where you have touched the need for developing synergies among the different programs, among different initiatives, and today allow me to introduce our speakers that represent the different programs and also initiatives that are some of the key players in the Mediterranean area. We will start, and our speakers will follow the same order, with Professor Angelo Riccaboni. He's a full professor in business administration at the University of Siena, Italy. He is the chairman of the Prima Foundation, and he's a member of the Leadership Council of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. After him, we will have Ms. Francesca Marcato, who has over 10 years of experience in management and evaluation of EU-funded cooperation program and projects. So she's actually working as a project officer, the joint secretariat of the Interreg Euromed program, and she's the reference person for the biodiversity protection thematic community. Then we have a colleague of mine, Mr. Martin Heibel, who has 15 years of experience in working for this program, and he is currently the communication manager of the ENI-CBC MED program, which is the largest EU-funded cross-border cooperation in the Mediterranean program in the Mediterranean region. Last but not least, we have a representative from the Union for the Mediterranean. Allow me to take this opportunity to thank the Union for the Mediterranean, because if we are here in this wonderful pavilion, it is also because of the efforts that our colleagues from the Union for the Mediterranean made. So thank you, Gramenos, for this excellent organization. So Miss Alessandra Sensi, representing the Union for the Mediterranean, she's head of sector of the environment, green and blue economy portfolio, and she has a vast experience, especially in dealing with topics such as environment, green and blue economy, climate change. So we'll pass now to first session of this first round of interventions from our speaker. I decided to title this question, Flesh on Your Program, because I would kindly ask the speakers to stick within the 2 minutes in order to tell us about the program they're working for, and basically how it works. So you have 2 minutes. We'll start from Professor Angelo Riccaboni. So Professor, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and Prima to this workshop, to this panel. So 2 minutes, very fast. This slide is showing what is Prima. As the representative of DG Regio said before, we have common problems, we need common solutions, we need to work together on innovation. So 19 Euro-Mediterranean countries with the European Commission established this program named Prima, which is working on sustainable agri-food systems and sustainable use of water. So what we are doing, we are launching calls with a budget of €500 million over 7 years, so more or less 70 million per year. So far, we have funded 168 projects. The key number to me is 1,600 research units, which means almost 10,000 researchers, and with a budget so far spent of 230 million euros. So we have all these units working together under the same strategic research and innovation agenda. I will stop here, given they were 2 minutes.
Thank you very much for keeping the time. Francesca?
Thank you, but first of all, I'm really glad to be here, and it represents a cooperation about our programs. The Euromed program, it's a transnational cooperation program. It consists of cooperation between 69 regions coming from 14 countries of the northern shore of Mediterranean. We have a budget allocation of 294 million for the next 7 years, so from 2021 to 2027. We have already opened 2 calls for proposal, and we will open the next one next year. And we are, the main objective of the program is the contribution to a more resilient, climate neutral and resilient society in line with the European Green Deal and contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals. We are covered the northern countries, but we are open also to the south countries, thanks also to this cooperation with Uniform Mediterranean and NECBC. And partners from East and South Mediterranean can participate as associated partner to the program. And we co-finance the project at a rate of 80%. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Martin, please.
Yeah, so we are very happy to be here at COP because we are very excited to announce that we are about to launch a new program, the one that was perfectly described by Maureen Gilland. It's called Interreg Next Med. We bring fresh money for Euro-Mediterranean cooperation around key shared challenges in terms of socio-economic development, in terms of environmental sustainability, in terms of social inclusion, in terms of better governance, and we're bringing a budget of 253 million, which will be available mainly from starting from next year. We work the same way as our sister programs. We launch calls for proposal. We select projects. We work with a partnership of 15 countries for this new program. We are very happy to welcome new members with us, Algeria, Turkey, and it's an interesting program. First of all, it's an opportunity to exchange knowledge, to work together on key shared challenges, and most of all, to agree on what needs to be done in the Mediterranean area regarding its main challenges. So it's also this principle of co-ownership of the program. The program is shared among all partners, among all countries, and the common benefits. We are not transferring knowledge from the north to the south. We are receiving, we are exchanging, we are working together because we really share a huge amount of issues in the Mediterranean area. So from next year, actually, we launch call for proposal. It's interesting also from the financial point of view. We finance up to 90% of the project cost. And our project range is up to 3 million euros. So also our presence at COP is to say we are here to support what needs to be done operationally, from the operational point of view, to support the green transition with a broad range of stakeholders, government, municipality, university, NGOs, association, the civil society. Okay. We bring together a different range of partners. So we feel that joining forces will make us stronger.
Thank you, Martin. We will tackle also these issues in the second round. Allow me to see if Alessandra Sensi from UFM is online. Alessandra?
Yes, I am, and thank you very much for the floor. It's indeed a great pleasure to be here with you today, with whom we have a very close, let's say, collaboration and cooperation around these important themes related to the transition to the green economy. I'd like actually to mention that the 42 Euro-Mediterranean countries that the UFM represents have engaged in this green transition already since 2014. And the 2 ministerial declarations that we had, one in 2014 and one just now, basically, I mean, in 2021, are indeed marking the acceleration towards this end. Basically, as was also mentioned by the colleague,
we cannot hear you. Maybe you muted yourself.
no,
Try again.
it works for me.
No, we cannot hear you. Try again.
Can you try now again? Because I'm
yes,
not muted.
now yes, yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Sorry, Alessandra, go ahead.
Can you?
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you very much. I mean, I was just mentioning that indeed the UFM represents the 42 Euro-Mediterranean countries, which have already agreed in 2014 to move towards green carbon neutral transition, even before the SDGs were identified. So the region by now is an example for others, is at the forefront of this important and crucial, if not existential challenge. And the very recent ministerial we had in 2021 is indeed all focused about the acceleration, the joint acceleration towards this end. I'd like to mention that the UFM operates at 3 different levels, indeed ministerial declaration, platforms of dialogues and working group through which indeed the political and strategical dimension do link with the more operational one, and projects. Indeed, we aim at creating convergence and define the common priorities again of the 42 to ensure the ownership needed, the critical mass that we will all need to move towards green circular economy, and therefore pooling the technical, human, and financial resources, which we'll focus on today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alessandra, also for keeping the time. Okay, let's jump now to the second session, which is actually the core of this workshop, because we're going to ask our speaker, I'm going to ask our speakers to tell us a little bit more in details the opportunities offered by your programs in terms of contributions to the green transition. In particular, where I think that the audience here is very much interested in about knowing the type of projects that you could finance, or also the type of stakeholders you're going to tackle, and also if you have some good examples of projects, so you can give us a taste of what you're actually expecting to finance. So pass back the floor to Professor. Thank you.
Okay,
and
good.
we can start also the presentation for.
So I will answer to your question following 3 topics. First one, which are the principle of PRIMA. Second one, which are the topics. And third, where we are going. First, the principle. I would like to underscore that PRIMA is launched according to the Horizon 2020 rules. So we are a program within the RTD Directorate principles. So it's not a program of international cooperation, but it is a program of research innovation. However, we have a strong component of scientific diplomacy. So both is important in order to fund rigorous research, but also is a very important program to build bridges among the 2 coasts and not walls. So this is an important point. Because of it, the key principle at the basis of our functioning is the principle of equal footing, which means that the program is managed together, governed together, funded together by all the 19 countries and the European Commission. So this is a very important point, because this is the only way to build trust, and we need trust if we want to build bridges. So as I said, it is according to the Horizon 2020 rules, with some exceptions. For instance, in order to be funded, each network of participants, of applicants, need to have at least 1 research unit from the north and at least 1 research unit from the south. This is very important. At the end of the story, also because of this principle, we have that 30%, 35% of funds go to research units from the south. And this is extremely important. Also, some of the projects are coordinated by the researchers from the South, which is another important topic. We are also promoting South-South collaboration, because we always complain about North-South cooperation, but unfortunately a key weakness of the Mediterranean is that we have a low degree of South-South cooperation, and we need to work on it. Also, I would like to say in terms of principles that around 30% of Section 1 funds, which means in total around 20% of global funds, are given to small, medium-sized enterprises and the private sector. So this program is not only for researchers, it's also for ONGs and for private sector representatives. This is very important because we saw a large participation of private sector, which is a good feature of the program. So this is in terms of principles. In terms of topics, you see the previous slide. The previous slide was showing which are the 3 thematic areas, which are efficient use of water, sustainable farming systems, and using or valorizing agro-food value chains to promote regional and national growth. These are the 3 traditional areas of PRIMA. In recent years, we have added a very important topic, which is the nexus, the so-called WEF nexus between water, energy, food, and ecosystems. So we are very pleased that all of them are attracting interest, and you have some examples. I don't need to spend time on it. I would like to go to the last slide where we highlight some of the projects. The projects can concern the use of new technologies for precision farming, new ways to do desalination, or for take advantage of unconventional water, or finding new species which are able to deal with stress, water stress, and lack of water. So there are many interesting topics. But what is very important is that we see that in these topics there is a large participation of women, a large participation, especially in terms of SMEs, of youngsters. So it means that these are the good topics, the topics for the future. The last point is what is next. In terms of next activities, we will focus more and more on the issue of scalability. So we want to go from these topics, and we are very pleased that there is a large participation to the topic of translation from our research labs to communities and entrepreneurs. This is a very important challenge, and in order to do that, we need to go on with the spirit of this panel, that is to put together all the stakeholders, all the main actors of the area around the same table to avoid overlapping, to avoid duplication, but we need to work together in terms of how to make sure that the results of our research innovation goes in the right direction, which means for more sustainable and more resilient societies. I will stop here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor. Francesca,
Yeah, thank you.
Euromed, let's go back to the presentation. So tell us about which opportunities you offer, the type of projects you are expecting, and the main stakeholders you're going to work with. Thank you.
Yeah, the Interreg Euromed program is open to public and private beneficiaries. So it could be an NGO, a university, or SMEs, for example, national, regional, national authorities. So we are open to all type of beneficiary. And could be finance, study, testing, or transferring projects. Study, let's mean short project, preliminary study in order, for example, to test a solution or to test an action plan in the territory. And the transfer project is more transfer a solution or an instrument that has provide a good results, and you want to transfer in other territories or upscale just as a mainstreaming phase. We have 4 different missions, and all our missions contribute to the green transition. The first one is more focused on the innovative and sustainable economy. And here we have 2 main specific objectives. I give you some example of projects that we can finance under this mission. For example, projects on support of SMEs in new way of production, sustainable way of production, sustainable business models, eco-design, eco-innovation, practices for reduction or management of waste, for example, and the support to local public authorities in the implementation of plans, strategic plans for linked to the circular economy, for example. So all this mission is really linked to innovation and sustainable economy. The second mission is more focused on the promotion of cultural and natural heritage. So we have here projects on, for example, support public authorities in the implementation of plans for adaptation and mitigation of climate change effects. But also we have all the projects linked to biodiversity protection, so support in the designation of new protected areas, connection among protected areas, or help to restoration of degraded and polluted natural resources. Under the third mission that is more focused on green living areas. Living areas means could be urban areas, rural areas, coastal areas, for example. And here the idea is to work on climate change, so support public authorities in energy transition, so mitigation of climate change effects, but also improve the quality of life of citizens and also engagement of citizens in order to have a more quality and healthy life in cities. And then we have the last mission that is more sustainable tourism. And this mission is cross-cutting to other objectives. So for example, sustainable tourism crossing with circular economy, or combination of sustainable tourism taking into account also the protection of natural resources, or innovative solutions in sustainable tourism. So those are our main missions and priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I pass the floor to my colleague Martin to tell us a little bit about the Interreg Next Med program.
Thank you, Aldo. One of the take, I think, of also today's discussion is the strong synergies that unite our efforts in supporting a greener and a more sustainable Mediterranean area. So I will connect to what has been said by the two previous speakers by building on this assumption that as far as Next Med program is concerned, really what we want to achieve, the ambition, is to prepare better the territories and especially local stakeholders to address the issues of climate change. I mean, climate change is happening. People are witnessing, are experiencing the effects of climate change. So what we aim to do is really to provide the solutions to businesses, to communities, to public authorities to be ready, especially at local level, to address the many consequences of the climate change. So we have defined a framework, a strategic framework. Of course, our means are limited. We are a cooperation program. It's difficult to have a sort of structural impact on the territories, but what we can do is really to trigger that momentum to deliver that solutions to the stakeholders who are in need, so they can really implement them and replicate them at local level. Our scope is really the local level. We have seen that that kind of program is working very well with municipalities, NGOs, associations. So what's on offer? We've been selecting the topic of water efficiency. We cannot cover everything. We try to specialize as much as possible. Water efficiency in terms of sustainable water management, and of course water collection and treatment in compliance with energy efficiency criteria. Of course, the big dossier now, which is very much in the air of energy efficiency renovation, especially of the housing stock of public building, putting in place solutions like demonstration projects. We care a lot about the visibility, about what we do, about small infrastructure. Again, people are like, experiences climate change, they need to feel, they need to touch the solution. So we are very eager to see pilots implemented in public facilities. We have beautiful projects where we have very innovative solar plants in universities, so students can gather around this, can touch, can feel, can even study that. So for us, really the awareness is fundamental. We need to convince people that something is happening, but actually we can deliver on this. So showcasing actually the solution and even touching them. So energy efficiency also through the creation of local energy communities. Of course, the adaptation to climate change here with a specific geographical scope in coastal, rural, urban area, putting as much as possible forward a nature-based solution. This is what was requested by our participating country. And finally, of course, the transition to a circular economy through better waste management at household level. This is our focus, the household level, and connecting to what Francesca was saying, also supporting eco-friendly production processes and resource efficiency in SMEs. But our commitment to climate change adaptation, let's say, does not stop to the 92 million we will dedicate to green priority. We'll try also to adopt a sort of holistic transversal approach where we will foster as much as possible with our limited means the greening of some key Mediterranean economic sectors. I mean, the Mediterranean is leader in agro-food production, has a strong component in terms of tourism, textile production, construction. So how we can make these sectors better performers in terms of sustainability, in terms of low carbon impact. So we will also support projects that help tourism operator better manage water resources, waste. Same happening with SMEs. We will support SMEs that turn their business models to green, sustainable business model. And on the other hand, also, we feel that innovation has a lot to deliver. Technology transfer in our program will be focused as much as possible on commercializing research outcomes that are green, that are providing eco-innovations, clean technology, low carbon solutions. So creating, as it was said by my previous speaker, this strong connection between the solutions and those who are able, the providers and those who are able to implement them, creating this connection. So we will support this vision through a transversal call for green projects, which will not only concern our purely oriented green priority, environmental priority, but will extend to all the program. And I'm also here referring to the question of the green skills. I mean, if we want to be successful in the Mediterranean area, we need to have people that are, you know, trained, equipped with those green skills. So we'll also try to foster as much as possible green curricula, green training. The question of the competencies of the skill is as much as important as, of course, the question of the technologies and the actual solution. We need the people to deliver. And finally, maybe I will talk to this later on, the awareness. We care a lot about campaigns that show to people that we are bound, we are united by common issues, and we need really to raise awareness of people across the Mediterranean about the importance of acting together for delivering on climate change. With our little experience, we have learned that the awareness and the concern about climate change is not the same across all the Mediterranean area. Concerns are different sometimes from country to country, so programs like ours can really give this like transnational awareness and concern that we need to act together. So we'll support as much as possible campaign, transnational actions where citizens are involved and are called to have a sort of behavioral change. So this is also very important to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Alessandra, obviously here we are in a different context, meaning that the Union for the Mediterranean is an important key player in terms of policy definition. So for you, Alessandra, the question will be a little different compared to the rest. In particular, we would like you to mention the role that the Union for the Mediterranean plays in the development of the policies addressed towards the green transition. Allow me to say that many of the policies, many of the ministerial decisions that are taken at UFM levels are actually a benchmark for the programs that have already spoken. So Alessandra, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
Many thanks, Aldo. Indeed, I will, let's say, resume from where I left, which is indeed the ministerial declaration on environment and climate change, which we had last year, 2021. Indeed, as I was mentioning, this has been marking the acceleration towards green circular economy as common, let's say, endeavor and purpose and decision by the 42 countries. As you mentioned, I mean, it's this strategic alliance that we could, let's say, manage to put in place with all of you, of course, key partners over the past years that ensures that the political dimension is indeed backed by the financial support needed for this transition. I'd like to mention that, of course, the ministerial we are focusing on is the one on environment and climate action, which has a strong green component in it, and it's actually has marked the launch of the Greener Med initiative around which we will work. But of course, there are a series of other important ministerial declarations that do contribute to the transition itself, indeed the one on energy, the one on research and innovation, it was just mentioned by Martin a few minutes ago, indeed employment and labor, and the very recent one even on the role of women in society that we had approved, let's say, a few days ago. I'd like actually to mention that for Greener Med and within Greener Med, which is indeed an institutional framework by which we bring together all these different initiatives to have a constant and clear picture of what's happening on green circular economy, let's say at regional level. We also compiled very recently a baseline that will be used for the year to come, basically up to 2030, to see how the region as one is indeed progressing. So we are not donor ourselves, but we do help indeed to pool the resources to back the priorities agreed by the countries themselves. What has happened over the past years? Basically, I mean, what we see from this baseline report is that most of the funding for green circular economy, which of course, I mean, is now getting a great push through the Green Deal, has been targeting mainly agriculture and food system, the tourist sector, which is of course a priority also in terms of the economic sector for the Mediterranean. Very importantly, also waste, minimization of waste, and in particular also plastic waste, which is, of course, an alarming and emerging priority for the Mediterranean, as well as sectors like construction and textile. In terms, let's say, of policies, let's say the focus that has been used, the approach that has been used to support green circular economy is based on sustainable consumption and production and resource efficiency, together with important policy tools such as green procurement, eco-labeling, and as was even just mentioned, I mean, more and more focus on nature-based solution. I'd like actually to mention that for sustainable production, we have been working since 2014 with important, let's say, regional programs such as SwitchMed. Then we have joined forces also with the Interagmed Green Growth Community, making sure that all these resources, let's say, were pulled around the Mediterranean, together with NECBC Med, indeed, to reinforce all these axes, and with Prima to support this green transition as far as food systems are concerned, also together with other partners such as FAO, CM, and so on. I'd like also to mention that sustainable consumption, of course, is equally important. We recently participated to a ministerial conference organized by Cyprus, for an important action plan on education, in particular green education, has been approved, and it's also another important floor of collaboration. This is also to say that the work that we carried out over the past years, also with the support of the civil society organizations that are very active in the region, from NEOXT to RIDE to WWF, they have been really crucial in supporting, let's say, consumers' awareness in driving, let's say, the market changes we need. I'd like to conclude by saying that indeed Greener Med is like a photography that we basically present every time that the Working Group on Environment and Climate Change meets and gives, let's say, a perspective on where we stand, where we go, and how, let's say, the distribution also of financial resources goes around the region. This, of course, I mean, would help and helps us to guide indeed action and to complement, to fill the gap whenever we can with the few seed resources, let's say, we have to basically upscale and capitalize on what projects do. I mean, projects do feed the processes that we are basically launching and guiding at regional level. I'd like basically to conclude with sort of takeaway, which is that up to now, what we managed to achieve is indeed the convergence and cooperation. Of course, what we need to do now is to coordinate all these efforts. As I mentioned, we have been, through Greener Med, putting together 180 regional projects, indeed, operating on the three main axes of this initiative. And of course, I mean, through this, we can see where and how the priority, the sub-priorities identified by the countries are tackled and how each one is benefiting of these resources. So the next step is indeed through coordination, through capitalization, to build the critical mass we need to have this green and blue transition, blue being part of this green transition happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alessandra. Now, kindly ask here those that are attending this workshop, if there is anyone who wants to take the floor to ask a question or any doubt, or otherwise we do have last question to the speakers, but obviously if there is someone that wants to take the floor, this is the right moment. Okay, seems that everything has been quite clear from our speakers. Now, I think that a key message that has been tackled from the interventions that we have seen is that we have different programs, different initiatives working on the same topics or similar topics. Therefore, what Alessandra was saying in her last words was the need for synergies and coordination is a must, I would say, in order to maximize the impact in the territories in the Mediterranean region. Now, I would like to ask our speakers a very last question, which is a personal opinion, basically, of the added value that the cooperation among different actors from different countries through the projects that you finance could play. So what is, in your opinion, the added value that you could play? Obviously, we're talking about green transition. So what is, in your opinion, about having this type of cooperation among countries delivering these results? Professor.
Well, I think that it's very important. Certainly, I agree with you that it's important that we coordinate more in the future, because as we can see from the slides, there are many activities which are on the same topic. So I think that given that we need to have an impact, because the key word for the future will be impact. I mean, we need to be able to improve which are the activities of entrepreneurs, of businesses, but also of communities. So I think that we need to be more synergic among ourselves. That is for sure. On the other hand, this will be very useful because the challenges in front of us are so important that only putting together energies and laboratories and ideas and brains, we can make it. Our countries in the Mediterranean do not spend much in research and innovation in general, with a slight exception of France. France is the only country where maybe there is a higher percentage of GDP in research and innovation. So given that in our countries we are not that spenders, it's better to do together. Also, as I said before, working together, we build bridges among our researchers, among our societies, and this is extremely important. I mean, the atmosphere you breathe in this pavilion is a very positive atmosphere. There are people from the north and the south working together without any difference. And also in the case of Prima, which is the one I know, I'm sure also in the others, but in the case of Prima, in our secretariat, there are really only one way of working together. And it is, I mean, a great learning for the rest of our societies and of our world. So I think that it's very important to build also this kind of exercises. Last but not least, from the south, we can also give to the whole Europe, I don't want to say the whole world, but at least to the whole Europe, we can say that there are solutions which can be built on on the experience of the South. Unfortunately, in the South, we have been familiar with the lack of water, droughts, or difficulties for hundreds of years. So our experience can be a value added for the rest of Europe. So I think this is also a very important added value that we should bring to the European table, but also to the world table. As I said before, the Mediterranean can be a test bed for the entire world, and it's a great opportunity for the Mediterranean, but also for the rest of Europe.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Francesca, and then Martin. About 1 minute each, because we would like to leave the last couple of minutes to our graphic facilitator to show there is a graphic facilitator who is taking notes of what has been said so far, and we would like to present it before the end. So Francesca, then Martin, and then Alessandra, please 1 minute each. So added value of your program in terms of cooperation. Thank you.
As added value, I mean, concretely, thanks to this cooperation and coordination, we have been able to be here together in this Mediterranean pavilion, and I think, and also we have the possibility to feed the declaration, ministerial declaration mentioned by Alessandra. We have to continue to work together to be more effective, to give sustainability also to our project, to capitalize, and because we have a common objectives, and only if we reinforce this dialogue among us, we can also have a more impact mentioned before. So just a few words. I don't go further on that. Thank you.
Crystal clear. Martin, please.
Always like to say in cooperation there is no copyright. I mean, through these projects we have seen it through our 3 initiatives. We are able to link in some cases like the brightest minds in some sector out of the countries we work with. We connect them, they work together, and they build, I think, better end-to-end solution. I mean, these programs are really unique platform where, first of all, we share the idea that we are facing common issues, and cooperation in the Mediterranean area, from what we have learned, is never for granted. So it's an accelerator, but it's also a way of federating our interest and, let's say, the policy direction where we want to go in terms of climate change. Aldo, if I may, just a very last word of our engagement as a program with young people. I mean, we're seeing here a lot of young people at COP. There is a youth pavilion for the very first time in the history of a COP. We've seen that the main concern for young people is actually the consequences of climate change in their lives for the future. Young people have now, I think, platform to express their concern, to share their ideas, to define what their vision want, and also to act. But through our program, we will also try as much as possible to provide a sort of operational platform where youth organization will be able actually to implement projects. So scaling from, let's say, raising a voice and a concern to actually acting together through cooperation projects between young youth organizations across the Mediterranean area. So we are testing this, and we hope we'll be able to bring positive results in youth engagement, in cooperation programs, in COP28 maybe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Alessandra, a final
Yeah, thank you very
opinion
much.
on the added value.
I hope you can hear me. Yes, I mean,
Yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So just to recall the concept I was referring to, what we need now is indeed the critical mass. We achieved this very good level of cooperation. We are trying to coordinate, but of course we have to reinforce our effort. Let's not forget that the region is one of those warming faster than the rest of the globe. So we need, of course, I mean, this concentration of energies. I'd like also to mention that, of course, I mean, the market is also peaking, which is, of course, a very good sign. And the objective is to remain, to keep focus on the objective, but to ensure that the mechanism can roll on its own. So we are pushing toward convergence of resources with a view for the mechanism, indeed, for this rolling towards the green blue transition, working on its own through the different, let's say, angles, be that market-based, be that from the policy side, be that from the process and projects, let's say, angle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alessandra. I don't know if Maury Gillen is still on. Is it still online? Maury? If you wanted to give a closing remark before we pass the floor to our graphic facilitation. Maybe it's not on. Okay. As I said, well, first of all, allow me to thank, before we forget, to thank our distinguished speakers for their valuable contributions. You have done a great job. You have stayed on the time. So I do not take additional time because I would like to end this workshop through the graphic by introducing our Miss Fanny Didou, that she has taken a graphic facilitation of this event. So Fanny, please, the floor is yours for these last 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you Aldo. I am Fanny Didou, and yes, in fact, for this event, the NECBC Med program, and it's wonderful. Team gave me one mission: to listen deeply to the conversation and capture the essence of this conversation with visuals, key ideas, and drawings. So here we go. So you can see here on the screen, I think it's appearing, the results of the live scribing. So I will take the advantage of it to maybe highlight 2 points that seem to be very fundamental for our topic today, which is accelerating the green transition in the Mediterranean, spotlight on funding opportunities. So first, the power of the collective. In order to achieve the objective of the green transition, in order to respond to the urgency of the current crisis, it's crucial now to harness the power of collective action. And maybe second, from the ground, the solutions exist, and they are here. Good practices are many here, effective and sustainable. So let's go from the ground. Let's replicate them thanks to this kind of programs we've been listening to today, and on a larger scale, to go and achieve our objectives towards a greener, low carbon, climate resilient Mediterranean. Thank you very much, and we will be sharing the drawing with you after the session.
Thank you, Fanny. Great job. And I would like to thank the audience and those who have followed us online. And obviously, if you have further questions, you can always find our contacts on the website. Thank you again. Thank you for the wonderful organization, technicians, and to the Egyptian government for hosting the COP27 in this beautiful country. that is one of our preferred destinations. Thank you very much.